Hey everybody, what's up? Welcome to Arrow on Target. We're your hosts, Chris
and John,
and we're live streaming again.
We are live
on
streaming.
YouTube.
So
I'm going to scoot over this way so that John can actually be in this shot.
And last week we actually weren't live streaming. We thought we were, but we actually weren't. So
yes.
You know.
Anyway, you'll be able to find this episode on YouTube.
Yes.
You can find our YouTube channel if you go to our site, stayontargetpodcast.com. So this episode of Arrow,
oh my goodness,
was crazy.
Oh my goodness.
I'm going to put my hood up in recognition of how good it was.
Okay, we both will here.
We'll both put our ceremonial hoods on, and we look like a couple of thugs.
It's pretty apparent that we are completely thugs.
Yes,
you know,
we are the original.
I feel
thugs.
like I want to have an arrow pack on my back here.
You should scoot this way.
Okay. Okay.
An arrow pack.
Yeah, an arrow pack. A pack of arrows on my back.
That's entirely possible. We could do that. We can make
that happen.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Cool. So this week we start off and we ended last week on like this big cliffhanger.
Yeah, for sure.
And in which Slade was in the Queen home.
Yep.
And this was just like the shocker moment where Oliver walks in and Slade's alive.
Yeah.
And so anyway, so this episode, I loved the pacing of this episode.
Yeah, what was crazy was the fact that we spent so much time on the island.
Yeah.
More than we ever have before.
Yeah. And it's like while this season especially, it's like I feel like to a certain extent, the action on the island has all been building up to this episode, which is really nice to actually see a lot of the stuff that we've been seeing on the island pay off.
Right.
So yeah,
I mean, up to this point, kind of like on, we've talked about before, that this season of the island has felt weird. It just hasn't, like, it doesn't really matter as much. And like in the first season, they used it as just a way to explain, well, this is how he knows this, and this is how he, achieved, got this skill.
This is the first time he did this, that sort of thing.
And this is kind of this harkens back to that.
Yeah,
a lot.
It does, because this essentially like shows a lot of like firsts. It shows the first time like he like hoods up and actually like hoods up with the hood that he uses.
Right.
It shows Manu Bennett, Slade, shows him like masking up into Deathstroke. So it's like we're gonna see Deathstroke next week.
Yeah.
And we're gonna have like that as an amazing character and villain for the Arrow. We see a lot of things go down on the island, and this was probably the largest like scope of an episode, I feel like, because like we had like the biggest set pieces, like the ship was all one set piece, you could tell. And that we had the island on it. We had, the Queen house walking through that, which, we
haven't seen this part of the house before,
right?
Like the art gallery,
right?
basically.
And I just want to say that like they just like pulled a probably. I mean, I couldn't tell in the episode, but I would assume that they probably pulled a Seinfeld and like just rearranged things, to make like during different halls and stuff.
I mean, that's how you shoot a show. I mean, that's what happens anyway.
So anyway, so like I feel like we haven't seen this part of the house before. It shows that the house is much bigger than I thought it was.
Yeah.
As far as art wing.
Yeah. As far as the story goes, though, like I mean, I love the house and the sets and all kind of stuff, but I loved the story of this episode.
I agree. The tension was nuts in the house. Like whenever we did, like for as little of that as we saw, the tension was just building and building. So,
right.
And we were just kind of waiting for that moment to happen, and it never does. Where they fight, confront and fight.
Yeah.
What did you think about like? There was a number of times where you're like, why doesn't he just kill him, or why doesn't he just do it now? That whole thing. So, what were your thoughts on that?
Okay, so like my whole problem was, Oliver's going after Professor Ivo, Dr. Ivo.
On the island.
What?
On the island?
No.
Yeah. No, you're talking about Slade.
Oh, they're both going.
Oh, wait. I know what you're saying now. Never mind. That was my fault. I was confused.
He has all these qualms about killing Dr. Ivo.
Yes.
For some reason.
Yeah.
He just killed Slade, and yet he's concerned about killing him. Like he tells Sarah, you're going to kill a man in cold blood? It's like, yes, of course you're going to kill a man in cold blood.
Well, like, yeah, and in that instance, it's like, this isn't a defenseless guy. He's got like an army at his disposal.
For sure.
And he killed Shadow, and it's like, there's all sorts of reasons to kill this guy.
And Oliver on the ship is just shooting people in the chest, killing these guys, these bad guys.
But Chris, they have guns.
Well,
Whenever he showed up and Ivo, like, Ivo didn't even have
a gun.
So he did originally have a gun, you're right. So...
Anyway, I just thought that was kind of weird. and that was the big moral quandary in this episode. I think that they're kind of like, I don't know why we necessarily went down this road this season of I can't kill anyone.
Well, it's because he's got to become a hero at some point.
Right, which is fine, but at that point he wasn't a hero.
That's true.
Like,
That's true.
That was not him.
Well, and you saw, like you said, he was killing like left and right as he tried to get off the exploding ship or whatever.
Correct.
And you know, whenever you face down Ivo, literally the guy that is the reason all these, you know, armed guys are on this ship. He basically just chokes.
Yeah.
It seems like, you know, it's like he psyched himself up to this moment and he just kind of chokes whenever it comes down to it.
Yeah.
Which maybe that's something that it's like he's going to have to own up to. He's going to have to live that down. So as far as Slade goes, that whole reveal I feel like was really well crafted, where it was like, you know, he was going to meet up with him on the ship. And then, you know, the only part about it that was weird was like right before that commercial break, he just happens to be standing right behind Oliver. That
was kind of
it's kind of like one of those things. Yeah. Where,
well, that's the thing. Like Sarah had already had this conversation with Oliver and said, hey, don't let him talk.
Yeah.
Kill him. As soon as he talks, or as soon as you see him, kill him.
Right.
And what does he go and do? He sits there and lets him talk. Like, I mean, come on.
I agree. So back in, like, with Moira and Slade, like, that whole situation, where do you think that's going to shape up to in the future here?
And we already kind of talked about last week. We, think, like, he's obviously going to be a campaign contributor. Yeah. And he's going to try to use Moira for his purposes, whatever those may be. You know, obviously that, you know, if he wanted to kill Oliver and his family, he could have tried, and maybe he would have had the rest of Team Arrow not shown up.
I definitely think he would have tried something. I don't know what that something would have been, and I don't know how successful it would have been.
Yeah,
but he would have tried something.
I also thought it was kind of cheap that somehow he knew that Diggle would be out there with a sniper rifle.
No, but of course, like, he knew if he definitely would have come with backup. Like,
yeah, I'm sure of that. But then he tells Oliver, you know, like, you're probably wondering where Diggle is with his headshot. You know, she's like,
You know, I buy that for sure. I really do. Just because it's like, of course he's going to go in there with backup, and of course if the rest of Team Arrow shows up, the only one missing is Diggle,
but he doesn't know he has a gun, and like, that's stupid. That is a terrible piece of writing.
I don't know. I kind of dug the moment there that he knew, you know, that somehow either he's got somebody in his ear, or like somehow he knew, you know, that he wasn't in that much danger.
I don't know about this. I mean, honestly, it was a great episode, but that was weird.
Yeah. Okay. I can give that to you. And you know, as far as like the action on the island goes, it's like this time we shook things up quite a bit. We know that the serum is still in existence. Yeah. Obviously, we knew that anyway.
Right.
But it's like,
we know how.
We kind of, you know, it's like we know how Oliver and maybe how Oliver and Sarah get separated. And you know, potentially, you know, she might separate and go off, do her own thing. I mean, I don't know. It's like at this point, it's like there are so many things that line up with the way things are in the real world, or what we knew about what happened on the island.
Yeah, the cool things that lined up were like the fact that she asked him, you know, hey, don't tell anybody. Tell him I died in the boat on the first time.
Yeah.
If we, you know, don't make it. And then, you know, like Oliver separated from her right now, so we could see how that goes.
Yeah.
We also saw like how Oliver trained and became like, you know, put on the hood.
Yeah.
You know, like they made a big deal about putting on the hood for the first time and training.
And they made a big deal also about shooting the fire arrow at the thing like he did with the ship. And so that was really
cool. Which is really cool. We still haven't seen, you know, how Slade, you know, he loses his eye. Yeah. It's Oliver somehow. Maybe that's an escape off the boat or something like that.
Maybe.
We'll see.
Ivo's not dead either.
No, but I mean, it's only a matter of time. Slade's just going to chop this guy to pieces, like bit by bit.
That's true. I feel like that's very true. Okay, so as far as, you know, what do you think Slade's plans are for Oliver? I mean, why did he keep him alive? Do you think it's just because of some like misguided sense of like friendship or something like that, or what do you think? What is your opinion on that? Does he have some
I'm not
purpose
really,
for him yet? Or is he wanting to just, is it literally what he said? I just want to tear you down piece by piece, and, you know, that's... You know.
Yeah, I believe that. I believe that completely. You know, like, there's probably a part of him that doesn't want to because he's his friend, and there's a part of him who realizes this is irrational. Like, I am blaming him for something that he... Like, if somebody was going to die... Like, the argument that I kept wanting Oliver to make was somebody was going to die no matter what I did because of Dr. Ivo.
Yeah.
And I think... But I think to some extent Slade knows that.
Yeah.
But, he hasn't, he's not going to
admit it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree. And so we introduced some new characters this time, and mainly the guys who were on the ship, the prisoners.
Right.
We returned to the prisoner that we ran into before.
Yeah.
That Oliver had a cell next to.
Right.
And then we introduced a Reverend Thomas. Let me see, Flynn. And so I mean, those new characters introducing like an influx of new characters onto the island.
And none of those
cool
are
idea.
part of the DC universe already.
I don't think so. As far as like, I didn't recall it, and I did a little bit of Googling. I couldn't find Reverend Thomas Flynn anywhere.
Yeah.
As far as the other guy goes, I don't know, and I don't remember his name either.
Right.
So,
I like that. And if they do separate Oliver from Sara, and Sarah's on the island, she needs other people to interact with because, up to this point, it's just been, Slade, Sara, Shadow, and Oliver.
Yeah.
And so having additional people for her to interact with on the island is a good thing.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens with that. This was very much I thought like this was going to be kind of like a culmination of the whole season leading up to this. Yeah. But it really wasn't. It was still a setup episode for something that's going to happen down the line.
Oh, yeah.
But it was very, very intense. And what I liked was the fact that it felt very, very intentional. And it didn't feel rushed. No. It didn't feel like they were cramming storylines in here. You didn't see any of Laurel. You didn't see any, crybaby stuff with Felicity. She just did her job.
Like we didn't see any like crazy drama with Roy.
Yeah,
Roy actually
which is great.
He was awesome in this episode. He played the strong guy like role there. He played the role that I wanted him to play with the team.
Yeah.
Where it's like you need somebody who's strong and you bring him in.
I did love that. Just the fact that whenever we flashed back to the Arrow Cave, like everybody's just kind of like chilling there, waiting for something to happen. You know, and it kind of made me feel like it parallels with the Justice League very, very well.
Yeah,
you just got Batman back there at the headquarters, and Wonder Woman standing there waiting for something.
Did they
to
bring
happen.
in like what were they bringing? Were they bringing in like food for everybody or something like that?
Like they're just hanging out. Like this is just a clubhouse now.
Yeah,
it's like Oliver has his own clubhouse, and it's like our treehouse when we were kids.
It's awesome.
Like you just have all your friends. We're just all hanging
just
out.
Like somebody's getting some Kool-Aid for everybody.
Yeah, for sure. That's what was happening. And then like they just jump at the chance, and they all perform their roles.
And they all trusted Sara. Like immediately whenever she said this is a disaster and this is what's going to happen, they all trusted her. She's like a legit member of this team, which is great.
And she's obviously a leader of the team.
Yes.
Like whenever Oliver's not there, she's going to call the shots. Right. And Roy's interestingly enough, he listened to her better than he listens to Oliver.
To Oliver, of course, though, of course. Because Oliver is his girlfriend's brother. I mean, so there's that dynamic as well.
Right,
so there's a number of things playing into him not listening to
Oliver. But that was
Oliver.
cool to see in the team aspect of it, and they sprung into action, and it was successful.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see where that goes, and I hope that they keep that going. I hope that they don't introduce like some weird conflict within the team. I like seeing them deal with conflict outside of the team, not just these interpersonal relationship differences.
I like whenever they parallel like the outside with the inside, but it's like whenever it feels like it's kind of forced, which it has a few times with like between like Felicity and it's like whenever there's these external things where it's like we're threatened and we respond to this threat and we respond differently to the threat than another member of the team. I like that,
right?
Where one person says, hey, we should respond this way, the other person says we should respond that way, but the like interpersonal, I'm with you on the interpersonal kind of like just added drama for the sake of it. It just feels really weird because it's like I don't know like a group that like a group dynamic, really like a friendship or whatever that's that way. It's like, you would respond differently to external threats and external situations, but very rarely do you have these whole, like big, such and such, and I'm talking about such and, I don't know. It's like,
I mean, it just comes down to like whenever you have a group of people and they have this many problems, it's like, why are you even working together?
Right.
Right. Go off and do your own thing.
Right.
So it was great not to have that.
Yeah. It was also great, the unifying factor of like one of the members is threatened.
In trouble.
Yeah. And that brings literally the entire team to play. And it also, to me, it sets up, you're right, this is very much a setup episode because it sets up how much of a threat Slade really is in the real whole world.
Yeah.
Because literally the entire team had to be there, and they still didn't get anything. They didn't get anywhere near a shot.
Yeah, for sure.
Aside from the fact that he knew, that he got taken out and stuff like that, it's like I love the fact that we set this up that they still didn't get a shot. So anyway,
yeah. I mean. Yeah. Other than the cheapness of like, he just gets knocked out. I like the fact that he's not dead yet. I mean, he is basically like whenever he was driving off, what I was thinking in my head was, this is a super villain.
Yes.
Like this is Oliver's Lex Luthor.
Yeah.
And I'm okay if he sticks around for a while.
Oh yeah.
The thing that I've complained about before on previous episodes even is the fact that we'll have an episode and they'll kill off a perfectly good villain.
Yeah.
In the episode.
And one that is interesting enough that you want to see them again.
Yeah. Like what was that doll maker that would leave those guys? I mean, that's creepy as all get out.
Yeah, dude.
That's like Hannibal level, like creepy, like serial killer.
Yeah, dude, for sure.
And they just well, you'll never see that guy again.
Yeah,
And so it's cool to have a villain that is strong enough for them to keep around for more than one episode.
Hopefully more than just the end of the season too. I'm really hoping that maybe we don't kill him by the end of the season.
Yeah, I mean,
I hope that there's some. I guess we haven't killed Malcolm Merlyn either, but he wasn't a strong enough bad guy to really like pay me off in any like substantial way to me.
Yeah, and that's kind of a storyline we can talk about that's kind of fizzled. Malcolm Merlyn was, brought in as a protagonist earlier in the season.
Yeah.
And they basically just got rid of him by saying, how did they get rid of him?
They assumed that he was like dead. Like the coroner, they said he was dead.
It was threatening Ra's al Ghul on him.
Right. Oh, that's right. Well, I mean, but that character to me only served as a get out of jail free card for Moira. It's like they got themselves into that situation, and then they needed somebody to get her out, and so like he was the way to get her out.
Yeah.
And then they had to get rid of him at ASAP before
So they said Ra's al Ghul.
Yeah.
I mean, there's definitely progression. I'm not saying it was a bad decision. I'm just saying I was just confused as to where he went.
I agree, and I wonder where he comes to play. Like if he'll come into potentially the Slade storyline.
Well, and this is the thing, where Malcolm. We'll see what this season finale. Like I think we're just building up to the season finale.
Oh yeah.
Like we won't have the final confrontation with Slade until then.
Yeah.
And whereas last season, season 1, the season finale focused on like the destruction of Starling City. And it was very the threat was on the exterior, just the city itself. I feel like this season, the season finale, the threat will be against Oliver and the team and his family specifically. It won't be like this very global kind of threat.
It'll be more of a, rather than like an external thing, it'll be more like an internal, like personal, like
this
is
more,
me and my friends.
Way more personal, like Slade's trying to kill me and my family.
I think that's the reason I like him as a villain and a nemesis more than I liked Merlyn ever. Just because Merlyn was all about, these external threats. Let's, threaten the city and things like that. And while, to a certain extent, it's like you threaten the city, you threaten the guy that, saves the city, and takes out the people that have failed this city.
Right. Which I still miss hearing
him say, yeah. But like,
I hope he says, Slade Wilson, you have failed this city. And then shoots him in the other eye.
Oh man, so like I mean that's the reason I like Slade a little bit better than Merlyn, just because it's like he is a personal threat. It's more personal. It's not like he's just some external bad guy that's out there somewhere. This is somebody that is out for blood and is out for blood for a reason. Yeah.
Whatever happened to Blood? Is he still like?
No, I'm pretty sure. Didn't we get rid of him?
Well, they captured who they thought was Blood.
No. But then they didn't Slade then kill him?
No, he's still because he's trying to beat Moira. But now that Slade knows that Moira is probably going to win, she has the public support behind her, and the money.
Or maybe he's trying to get close to her in order to sabotage her campaign.
He could be doing that, or he could be just hedging his bets and backing both candidates so he can have them in his back pocket. Or his front pocket of his shirt. I don't know. Whatever pocket he wants them in.
This is Slade. This is Deathstroke. He can put them in whatever pocket. He could put it in your pocket.
True. Let's talk about the cinematography for just a second.
Oh my goodness.
So there were some cool sequences.
Yeah.
Like whenever Shadow showed up in his dream.
Yeah.
It was really, really cool, And then there's a lot of cool stuff on the ship beforehand, it was just a
even
pretty
during
looking
like the
episode.
action, whenever there was a moment whenever Slade slammed somebody against a chain link fence or something like that, and that moment was really scary. It's like there was some like really good like action kind of thriller-esque type of direction, type of camera shots and framing. A lot of stuff from the ground as well. Like there was some cool like lower shots to make people look larger than life, that sort of thing. So
yeah. I will say, like, honestly, as far as the cinematography goes, the weak points were the action sequences, though.
Yes,
like,
I agree.
They just didn't look as pretty, and that you could obviously tell that these are set pieces,
right?
Whereas the just like more ethereal kind of shots, whenever you're there in a dream sequence or whenever they're just standing on the island, they were a lot more planned and they felt a lot more cinematic.
Yes. I like, it was one of those, the one shot that like really springs to mind whenever I think about like that. It was the shot where like we had this really slow shot going over the ship, which they obviously, like I said, they obviously built the ship for this episode. And it was that shot, and it was like guys were just, everywhere, and it was really like, I don't know, it was very strange how it felt. It felt
whenever
smaller
it was just fighting.
it felt smaller than it should have.
Yeah.
Felt like there was, it was like,
well, it's like that, you think about the
field.
Bourne movies, you think about like if you had taken a step back from this car chase and looked at it from, a mile away, this would not have looked as exciting as it does the way they shot it.
30 miles an hour?
Yeah, they're going like 30 miles an hour, and they looked like, you felt like they're going, 100.
Yeah.
And, so whenever you take an exciting sequence like that and pull back, unless it's Lord of the Rings and you've got, 5,000 people fighting at once, it's going to look small, and it's going to look, a little less exciting and dramatic.
And that's definitely the feeling that I got, and that's one of the reasons why I usually like the close action where like it's hand-to-man combat there on this show, is because they do these tight shots with the handhelds and stuff.
Right.
Whereas like other shows like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and stuff, it's like they only recently have like started doing that, where it's closer. Most of the time on that, it just feels like cheap or staged or something too.
Right.
So definitely there was a few moments where it felt really weird on this episode in particular. So.
Right. Do you have any quotes from this episode?
I do. There's quite a few, because this was I feel like that they were like going for like quote city on this episode.
They just got a bunch of one-liners together. Like, let's put them all in.
We've got to find a way to work these in. Because it's like, well, honestly, it just lended itself to that because of all the moments where Slade was talking to them in the house and he was alluding to other things. It just lended itself more to that. So we've got. Whenever he was shooting the arrow at the fire arrow, where he's trying to light the thing, and he misses the first time, totally whiffs. Slade goes, "We don't have all day," and Oliver turns around, "There was a breeze." And then
always making excuses.
I know, right?
That Oliver.
Oh man! And then there was I told you I'd come back, and then the Russian in the jail cell goes, "Fantastic, we're saved."
It's just very sarcastic.
Yes, very
and snarky.
sarcastic. Let me see. So we've got. Whenever Sarah was talking about Slade and talking about how she was like, "What's the biggest gun we've got down here?" And they put this giant, case of a gun on the table, and she goes, "That might work."
Yeah.
And then Roy turns around, like I thought the quote was going to end there, but then Roy turns around and goes, "Might?" And she goes, "He's got the Marakuru in him." And then he goes, "So do I."
I want to start saying that to people. I've got the Marakuru in me.
The Marakuru in me.
What does that mean?
Just whenever you start getting mad at somebody,
I've got the
Marakuru in me.
At work in a conference room. I've got the Marakuru.
Just burst into like a random, like not even like one that you're in, a meeting that you're in. Just burst in, just slam your hand down on the table, and I've got the Marakuru in me.
And then immediately pack my desk and leave. Because I would be fired.
Of course. Oh man. All right. So then there was whenever she breaks onto the boat, she goes, "I'm with Oliver now." And then one of the guys goes, "Why should I believe you?" And she says, "Because you don't want to die."
That's good.
Yeah, it was a good one. And then there was the one from Ivo who said, "I loaded the gun, I pulled the trigger, but you aimed the gun." And that was the moment where I was like, yeah, I can't argue with him, but you were going to pull the trigger one way or the other.
Yeah,
so anyway.
Somebody was going to die.
Yeah, and then that's
how many do you have?
That's pretty much it.
Okay,
the only
good.
other one that I wanted to say was that Slade promising complete despair. Complete despair.
Complete despair.
Yes.
Yes. Well,
So,
that's rough.
We're on our way
for
to
Oliver.
complete despair.
We'll see how he's, trying to create complete despair.
Yeah, I mean, and we're going to be dealing with Deathstroke next time, and it looks like the Suicide Squad too. So the DC universe is going to get explode and get a lot okay, next episode.
Okay, a few episodes ago, somebody ended up on the Suicide Squad.
Amanda Waller came in, visited the Blade guy. I forgot his name. What was his name?
He's basically Wolverine.
Yeah, he's basically Wolverine in the DC universe.
Right.
So yeah, for sure.
You should find real fast.
Dang it.
So we can tell his name. But yeah, I think, okay, so that's cool. We'll see him. We'll see the Suicide Squad and Amanda Waller. Was anybody else? Oh, doesn't Diggle, what happened with Diggle in the Suicide Squad?
I don't think knows about the Suicide Squad, but he
knows Amanda Waller.
Yeah, I do believe he knows Amanda Waller somehow there. Let me see.
So that would
Bronze
be cool.
Tiger. That's what it is.
Tiger.
I knew it was a color and then some sort of a cat.
You can find us online at stayontargetpodcast.com. Every single week after Arrow, we will post this. We will live stream, and then the video will go up shortly after. We'll also have the podcast version of this. You can find it on iTunes.
Or on stayontargetpodcast.com.
Right, you go to stayontargetpodcast.com, but you also search for Arrow on Target, and you can subscribe there. We have a couple video features up on our YouTube channel. We've got an unboxing of South Park: The Stick of Truth. We have an interview with the creators of Armorcrog, Pencil Test Studios. That's all on YouTube. And we'll have a podcast up on our main podcast, Stay on Target, on Friday morning.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, that's it for this time. We'll see you next time on
Arrow on Target.